from verses 89 to 96. Forever, O Lord, thy word is settled in the heavens. Thy faithfulness is unto all generations. Thou hast established the earth, and it abideth. They continue this day according to thy ordinance, for all are thy servants. Unless the Lord has been my delight, I should have perished in my affliction. I will never forget thy precepts, for with them thou hast quickened me. I am thine, save me, for I sought thy precepts. The wicked have waited for me to destroy me, but I will consider thy testimonies. I have seen the end of all perfection, but thy commandments is exceeding broad. Can we bow our heads? Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and praise and glory. We thank you for this another day that you have granted unto us. It is only because of your tender mercies why we are in the land of the living. And Father, you have been and is a faithful God to us as a people, as a nation. So we have come this morning to say thanks unto you and pray for your divine favor and blessings, Lord, upon us. So even as we are gathered once again within this honorable house, we pray for those that are on the government side, those that are on the opposition side, and the official members of the house. We pray, Heavenly Father, that even as the matters that will be brought forth this morning will be discussed, that you, Heavenly Father, will give your divine presence to be here with them. So we pray for wisdom to abide within this honorable house. We pray for each person that is here, and we pray that your divine will and purpose will be done in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the blessed Holy Spirit. Can we repeat our Father's prayer? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. God bless.
Thank you, Chaplain. Good morning, members. You may be seated.
Confirmation of minutes. Minutes of proceedings of the 8th meeting of the first session of the 12th Anguilla House of Assembly.
Are there any amendments? If there are no amendments, can I put a question? I put the question that the minutes be accepted as circulated. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Minutes accepted as circulated.
Oath of allegiance to new members, none. Announcements by the direction of the Speaker.
I make apologies for the member for Valley North, who unfortunately cannot be with us this morning. I also make apologies for the member for Sandy Hill, who's going to be a bit late. She's taking care of a small emergency this morning, but she will be here a little bit later on. I also wish to remind members about the technical review of the standing orders, Legislative Assembly Procedure Rules. That meeting will take place just after this sitting today, and we will be assisted by CPA UK. So I'm just reminding members, I believe everyone should be aware of this meeting and would have been invited to attend. So we are expecting your attendance. Thank you, members.
Papers, none. Reports from committees, none. Petitions, none. Government notices, none. Unofficial notices, none. Questions, none. Motions, none. Other business, government business, a bill for Immigration and Passport Amendment Act 2020, second reading.
Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill for Immigration and Passport Amendment Act 2020 be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I rise a second.
You may explain the bill.
Yes. Madam Speaker, I would like to, before I begin, acknowledge the presence of the Chief Immigration Officer here this morning. We'll be having someone as well from the Labor Department so that when we get into committee stage, any necessary technical advice may be provided. Madam Speaker, as we all would know, our borders were closed due to COVID-19 in March this year, and therefrom arose a need for a novel and innovative means to continue the island's tourism product as a mainstay of our economy. It is from this need that the digital nomad process evolved. The digital nomad process allows persons to apply for entry into the island to be able to work remotely for a year, 12 months. Presently, this process is handled directly through the Ministry of Tourism via the iVisitAnguilla.com portal. In order to facilitate this process, an amendment to the Immigration and Passport Act is required to enable officers at the port to grant up to a 12-month stay to digital nomads, as opposed to the 6-month maximum they are permitted to grant presently. So, Madam Speaker, this proposed amendment will allow the officers, as I said, to grant up to a 12-month stay to digital nomads at the port of entry. The Act currently only allows officers to grant a visitor a period not exceeding 6 months on entry. Thus far, officers are shown receipts with the amounts paid and the approved entry certificate issued and signed by Dr. Aisha Anduin. Presently, the officers rely on the indication of the visitor regarding the intended length of stay. So, Madam Speaker, this amendment will allow officers, as I said before, at the ports of entry to facilitate entry up to a period of 12 months. And Madam Speaker, there is an inherent inconvenience in this as well, in that it basically minimizes contact as well and inconvenience to our visitors. In this COVID pandemic, where we try to sort of mitigate against persons having unnecessary contacts, this again has a built-in safety precaution as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite debate on the merits and principles of this bill. Anyone wishing to make a contribution may now do so. Honorable Member for
say that we have not had any community spread in Anguilla whatsoever. Smart, articulate lady. And we don't give her enough credit, Madam Speaker, for the job that she has been doing in tourism and economic development. And very early she said, Madam Speaker, that we should have a program where people could leave wherever they are in the world and come to a destination as beautiful as Anguilla, as wonderful as Anguilla, because, Madam Speaker, as you can appreciate, Anguilla has won 4 years in a row the best destination because of the hard work and diligence of all of those people in the hospitality sector. Over 3,000 people work in the hospitality sector, Madam Speaker. And because of those people in the service that they provide in the hospitality sector, we have been given accolades around the world for the service. And some of us in government, Madam Speaker, would like to take that credit, as if we serve tourists when they come to Anguilla, as if we greet tourists when they show up at our ports, as if we help them onto the boat as they sojourn the beautiful turquoise waters between Anguilla and St. Martin. Madam Speaker, as if we help them through the Anguilla-St. Martin dock, Madam Speaker, because you can remember the severe criticism that one Hayden Hughes, former parliamentary secretary, got for developing that dock in St. Martin to ensure that our product can be so developed so that we can be where we are today. And those hospitality workers, Madam Speaker, whether in the restaurants, whether on the boats, whether the taxi drivers, the ground transportation, or in the hotel, they have created the climate in which we can boast that we are one of the world's best, if not the world's, the best destination in the Caribbean 4 years in a row. So, Madam Speaker, in your quiet moments, I want you to pray for the hospitality workers who have been on the front line, who have gotten us those awards, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I swear that Mayor Motley had a bug in the parliamentary secretary's room when she came up with the concept of digital nomads. Because no sooner than the parliamentary secretary, single white candidate, Ms. Quincy Gums Marie, came up with that idea, 2 weeks later, Mayor Motley spoke of unveiling their digital nomad program. But they had so many hiccups, Madam Speaker. They didn't go to Parliament, they had stops and goes. But this administration, Madam Speaker, led by the member for Island Harbor, a brilliant man, a capable man, a man who went to an Ivy League school. How many of us in here? How many of us who have passed through the halls of this Parliament can say we have gone to an Ivy League school? But he came back to give back, and he continues to give back, Madam Speaker. And he entrusted his team to deliver and to make sure that we don't have the type of hiccups that other places that are unveiling their digital nomad programs, Madam Speaker, are having. If you look at Hawaii, Hawaii today is giving round-trip tickets to individuals who want to move to Hawaii to live and work for up to 30 days. Madam Speaker, we don't have the capability of a federal state, because some people may not know that Hawaii is a state, because it may be offshore, Madam Speaker, to the United States. But be that as it may, Madam Speaker, that is what Hawaii is doing. We don't have the ability to do that. But what we have the ability to do is to empower our immigration and labor department to ensure that we have the right type of legislation that gives them the authority, the tools, to be able to ensure that this digital nomad program that we have unveiled will benefit the people of Anguilla, because when persons come to Anguilla to live and work digitally, Madam Speaker, digitally, they're not taking jobs away from me and you. They're not taking jobs away from the hotelier, the restaurateur, the taxi driver, the boat operator, the car rental agency, landscaping, or horticulture. They're not taking those jobs away. They are coming, and they are persons who are working remotely from home. And it so happens that they're choosing this destination, this island, Anguilla, to work remotely from home. And now we have legislation that we can take the market to say, hey, not only are we saying that we're going to have a digital nomad program, but it is enshrined into law. So we must also give the minister, Madam Speaker, for labor and immigration tremendous credit, and his team, and also the Attorney General's chambers and the draftspersons in the Attorney General's chambers for working very hard to ensure that we can come to Parliament less than a year in And not only this piece of legislation, Madam Speaker, but you see an aggressive legislative agenda, Madam Speaker, coming from this government. You know, policy initiatives that can enhance the lives of the people of Anguilla, Madam Speaker. Because even in the absence of the financial wherewithal to do certain things, you can enact policy, you can enact legislation that ensures that when digital nomads come to Anguilla, our wonderful people on the front line will say, good morning, you're here for a year. Give them a stamp in their passport for a year. They quarantine for 14 days after being tested on arrival, being tested at day 14, and then they're released, Madam Speaker, to rent a home that belongs to an Anguillian, rent a house that belongs to us, and live and contribute through consumption of goods and services in Anguilla to our economic development. Because, Madam Speaker, you know, when people come to Anguilla as transients, it's great when they can contribute to Anguilla. Because, you know, sometimes, Madam Speaker, you have those who come as transients, and they may even build a hotel, Madam Speaker. And next thing you know, they want to build houses that come here as transients, Madam Speaker. We cannot have that, Madam Speaker. We cannot have that, you know. Our job and our duty when we are elected by the people of Anguilla is to ensure that we put the people of Anguilla first at all costs, Madam Speaker. And I dare say, I like some things about Donald Trump because he put America first. And some of those who support Donald Trump in America don't support us in Anguilla because while he put America first in America, they don't want us to put Anguilla first in Anguilla, Madam Speaker. You see the hypocrisy in that? But I want them to know that we have a strong leader, a capable leader, and no matter what you do or say, your lawyers can't enter this honorable house. So, Madam Speaker, I just want to say once again that I give full support to this bill, and I will rest at this point because I believe that I will be on my feet several times today. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Road South. Any other contributions? Honourable Single Island Wide Electoral District, Member Mr. Joseph Vanterpool.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise this morning to give support to this bill before the Honourable House. Now, Madam Speaker, anyone who has followed the campaigns throughout the election cycle would know that this push for digital nomads is something that was touted by both sides. And I would dare say it was initially touted by our side. But regardless of which side brought it first, I want to congratulate the government on fulfilling their mandate, on coming through with this promise. Reason being, Madam Speaker, I have long been an advocate for the potential of transforming Anguilla's economy through the use of technology as a second pillar to add to what we already have through tourism. We saw how fragile our economy is by having all of our eggs in this one so-called tourism basket when COVID-19 set in and we were forced to close our borders, resulting in the majority of persons in our economy being left without employment, even until today. Madam Speaker, it was clear, though, that within the technology sector, although there would have been some disruptions, it certainly was not felt globally to the same extent. By empowering our children in Anguilla with the skills of these digital nomads, training them on how to become like them, I think we have the potential of training our youth in a more viable and sustainable aspects for our economy to rest on, with tourism, with technology being a pillar that stands beside tourism. Now, Madam Speaker, I knew that when discussing this concept throughout the campaign trail, some persons were a bit concerned that this would result in bringing in people would result in loss of jobs for Anguillians, or they will be coming and taking up our work. We already don't have enough work for our own people. But as the Honourable Member for Road South rightfully said, The advantage to focusing on these digital nomads are that digital nomads utilize technology as their workspace. Their laptops, their phones, their devices are their office spaces. So they are allowed to conduct business around the world in Hong Kong, India, the UK, the Caribbean, the United States, sometimes even simultaneously, without ever needing to be physically present there. So what are the advantages to bringing these digital nomads to our shores? As the Honorable Minister rightfully said, they're going to need to sleep somewhere, Madam Speaker. They're going to need to get from point A to point B, which means they're going to need to either rent or buy vehicles from our locals, as well as utilize the local gas stations. They're going to need to support local business, whether it's going to the restaurants or going to the local grocery markets to cook for themselves. So there is ancillary revenue coming directly from these persons, but where are they getting it from? They're drawing it from the outside economies to which they work. Madam Speaker, when I was reviewing this legislation, there was a safeguard that I was intentionally looking for that I was pleased to see there that specifically restricts these digital nomads from being able to conduct business directly with Anguillians. So say, for example, a software developer or a web designer may come to Anguilla and work from here. But we also have software developers, web designers, and other digital nomads in Anguilla. So government offered that protection for our local economy, our ecosystem, to which I commend them for. But Madam Speaker, the one thing that I want to say is the success to which, or the extent to which this program can be successful to Anguilla and its future development, the extent to which this can be used to start building that foundation for a truly digital economy will come down to the details of the implementation. So, Madam Speaker, I would like to encourage government to focus on adding some supporting programs to this digital nomad concept. Some ideas that I had in mind, for example, putting in place a mentorship program whereby digital nomads who come into Anguilla will be able to sign themselves up as mentors, whether it's for 2 to 4 students, maybe even more if they're eager to do so, but who are interested in their field. We don't want to overburden them. This is not, a daycare, but you meet with them once a month or once every few weeks. You expose them to what it is you do. You kind of walk them through, okay, this was how my path, and this is how you can get along the same path if you too wanted to do that. Because, Madam Speaker, one of the things that will be critical and most important into our truly revolutionizing and diversifying our economy will be the exposure to our young persons. They will not be able to truly understand what it is they are capable of doing if they don't know what the possibilities of what exists out there are. And I view this as a perfect opportunity, as a way and means of encouraging the digital nomads to become engaged in the Anguillian society, as well as give back to a community that's striving to become like them. Another way that I think we could enhance a digital nomad program is by putting a careers fair in place, whether it's 3 or 4 times a year, once a quarter, where on a specific day, the digital nomads will all come together and give a presentation to the students and maybe even the general public, just to enlighten them about what it is they do, how they go about doing it, what are the skills required, and how they're able to free themselves financially and independently and tap into a global outside economy. Madam Speaker, I think that small supporting programs like these will have magnitudes of benefit, especially to our youth, through that exposure and through the filtration of skills. Madam Speaker, they often say it's not what you know, but it's who you know. These digital nomads are coming to Anguilla with networks and teams from global corporations, from around various professionals in their fields. This could come with several opportunities for our youth who may not have direction, who may not know who to contact. These persons who are coming here, yes, they are coming here, and we're looking for them for the financial benefit to our economy. Yes, they are looking to come here for the safety Anguilla affords, for the comfort, for the people, for the food, for the culture, but we can make them come here for so much more. We can make them come to help us build and improve upon what we have. Madam Speaker, as we said, the devil is in the details. The success will come down to how this is implemented. The honorable member for Road South referenced Mia Motley, the Honorable Mia Motley, who he said must have been listening to the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary's bedroom conversations when she came up with this idea. Now, Madam Speaker, when I first heard of this announcement by Premier Mia Motley, I was disheartened. Don't get me wrong, Madam Speaker, I thought it was a brilliant idea. I thought it is exactly the direction that we in the Caribbean need to move along in order to build our sustainability and diversify our economy as a region. It's an idea that I wanted to see implemented here in Anguilla. But due to the pressure for COVID, it's one that unfortunately was realized by other countries before it could have been realized by us. One country which did have a program like this in such place way ahead of time was Estonia. Now, their program, Madam Speaker, is slightly different. They focus on e-citizenship. But it was in my travels to Estonia in 2018 when I first thought of the potential for bringing these digital nomads here to Anguilla. Now, I say all this to say, when Barbados announced their program and they announced the entry fee to be able to sign up to become a digital nomad, they announced that the application fee alone would be $2,000, or maybe even above that. Now, Madam Speaker, I saw that personally to be a mistake, and here's why. When I applied to be an e-resident of Estonia, the cost was only 100 euros. By 2 years later, the cost had fell to 50 euros because the advantage is not in the revenue that's coming from the upfront fee. In fact, the upfront fee that Barbados had put in place of $2,000 served to put off several of the digital nomads who would have been interested in pursuing Barbados as a viable location. Reason being, if they have to spend so much before they even get there, just imagine how much they have to spend once they're there. The cost can be off-putting. But if we in Anguilla were to lower our fees to be significantly lower than Barbados, they may look, okay, what's the competitive advantage between Anguilla and Barbados? I can get into Anguilla for much cheaper, and then once they're here, they have to spend in the economy. So the trick isn't in getting the money to get them here, it's how can we make this program attractive enough to get them here and then hopefully keep them here. This is what's going to come down to the implementation details. I am confident in the professionals in the ministry to be able to put a successful plan in place. But, Madam Speaker, as usual, I just want to remind the people of Anguilla, I'm elected to be your humble servant. If my expertise, my knowledge in the field may be of any assistance to members of the ministry or to government, I'm happy to serve. And with that, Madam Speaker, I offer my support to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Joseph Antipool. Any other contributions? Honorable Member for Valley South.
Yes, Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning on a really important bill that I think is going to give Anguilla the opportunity to join the region and the world in creating new industries in the face of COVID. What I want to say, Madam Speaker, is based in the fact that we have, since we got elected in this government, we have been working diligently to ensure that the legislation that we bring before the House of Assembly goes under public consultation, that we have the opportunity to speak to the people about what we intend to do, why we break down fees in the way we break them down, and what is the overarching objective. I understand that some people might think it's just about the competitive advantage, but it's not just about the competitive advantage, because the fee that is charged for those digital nomads doesn't simply include a fee for entering Anguilla. It's also a fee that takes into consideration immigration costs, labor costs, time on the island. All of these things we are building into the fee structure so that the persons who are coming to Anguilla don't have to think about it. They don't have to return in 3 months' time to say, I need another timestamp, let me pay more money. We're trying to ensure that whatever process we implement for those who are coming to our island for an easy, breezy, beautiful life, that they are able to understand, that they are able to have an easy process. We know that a lot of times government can be very bureaucratic, full of red tape, and sometimes that makes it very frustrating for our visitors. So what this government has decided to do is to build all of these implements into our fee structure so that our visitors don't have to think about that. That's how seriously we take our job, Madam Speaker. And as far as it goes to how this piece of legislation will work out in the future, we know that now that we're moving this digital nomad program from simply the Ministry of Tourism, we are putting in the enabling structures from the Ministry of Labor and Home Affairs. We anticipate that this is going to create the opportunity for our young people to access the digital economy. And I know I can't speak on it as authoritatively as the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary because e-governance was her baby. But it is one of the ways in which we intend to empower our young people to access new markets and new industries. And so this piece of legislation, Madam Speaker, I rise to give full support of and full support to the minister on my left for all the hard work and his team, who I can see sitting across from me, for all the hard work that they've done to ensure that this has come to the House of Assembly in such a short period of time when we know we have been under tremendous pressure in terms of getting all our legislative agendas and our legislative pieces before this honorable House. So, Madam Speaker, I will sit down right now, but I just wanted to reaffirm my support of this bill and this motion.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Valley South. Are there any other contributions? Member for West End.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I too rise to support this bill. And I love when people talk about team and what team means. And I love to tell people that that's the background that I've come from. That has been my profession for most of my life. And you have to give credit where it is due. And wherever you have a team, it is not just about the star player on the day or the minister that brings it to the House, but all that helps to make it happen. And I think, Madam Speaker, I know I've said it a number of times, my favorite event at the Commonwealth Games, where the Minister for Valley South, I had the pleasure of seeing her represent Anguilla, in fact, being the chef de mission on a couple of occasions. For me, the most exciting race or event at the Games, and it's usually the closing event, it will be the relay. The one that's the quickest, obviously, is the 100 meters, and everybody thinks of Usain Bolt and how great he was. We think of the 100 meters, we're the fastest team in the world. Over 400 meters would actually compete. But Madam Speaker, again, in governments, it's the same. It is the same. Doesn't matter how fast you are, how great you think you are, at the end, if that baton doesn't get to you, you will not win the race. If the baton is dropped, you will be disqualified automatically. Doesn't matter how fast you think you are, great ideas you might have. If that baton wasn't passed to you in the right manner, then the chances are you would not succeed. You would not cross the finish line. I say that to say this, Madam Speaker. For this current government, whether they admit it or not, they were given the baton, a clean-handed baton that gave them, or has given the best possible chance to compete with any island in the Caribbean. The fact that for 4 years consecutively, being rated number 1 in the Caribbean, again gives you a head start. To have COVID-free for over 3-4 months leading up to the general election, again gave a head start. So, Madam Speaker, when we talk about us and them, it is important to say that we're in this together as a team. All of us, anybody who's played a sport or competed, wants to be the MVP. But the chances are you might sit on the bench and still be part of that winning team. So all of us have got a role to play. And unfortunately, this sport they call politics, in fact, I don't see it as a sport or a game, the game they call it. To me, Madam Speaker, when you get your chance. Madam Speaker, what I find, and I said it over and over again, that at the end of the day, when we play this negative political, what they call game, the loser generally is our island and the people of Anguilla. If someone has done something well, you give them credit, but then you have to prove that you can do it better. They've got a chance. The current government now have got a chance to do a better job than what we did over a 5-year period. And whenever you finish a game, when you win, you accept criticism a lot easier. When you lose, Madam Speaker, it is a case of what did I do wrong? I think that is the time when you really need to take stock of where we're going. Madam Speaker, none of us was born at AUF or AUM or APM. We're born Anguillians. But at the end of the day, as my other colleague mentioned, he is here to offer his services to government. And when he says about government, it's offering services to the people of Anguilla. And Madam Speaker, again, as I rise to support this bill, I do hope that it will prove successful. Because when we talk about diversification in Anguilla for a number of years, a number of people thought of diversification outside of tourism. But every time there's a challenge, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a pandemic as we face now, we have to look to see how can we diversify within the tourism industry. And this is another method of doing that. But again, Madam Speaker, I think if we will be given a lot more support on both sides of the aisles, if we can at least every now and again say, thank you for handing me a clean baton and helping me to win the race. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for West End. Any other contributions?
Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Well, I saw both hands at the same time, so I just...
My apologies.
Yes, okay. Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Ms. Quincy Agams-Marine.
Yes, I thought your initial gesture was recognizing me. And I would have passed you a note earlier, letting you know that I wasn't feeling well. I actually didn't plan on coming today, but I'm here. And I planned on remaining silent, but I'm speaking. Because, Madam Moderator, when you hear certain things, you just can't let it slide. So, feeling well or unwell, Madam Speaker, I have to say my part. When I think of the concept of a baton, I know that it is not something that you can slice in half. A baton must be something that you can pass as a whole object. So if we look at the top of the baton, and not the size of the baton, it's cylindrical, and we look at the top and we say it's good, but the sides has splinters, dig out holes, something you can't hold proper, do we praise the whole baton? Because, Madam Speaker, the financial baton that we received trumps any other good thing that was being suggested by my learned colleague. And I heard something about not doing things well, or the digital nomad program being something that can just be there for face value of saying that we have it, but something that we don't benefit from. And as the single island-wide member, Mr. Vanterpool, was speaking, and his words of caution about the digital work permit started to flow, all I can think about was residency by investment. The fact that one person applied last year, and the program itself is not attractive. And I think to myself, the previous deputy speaker, now a member of the then administration, should have lent that same advice to have something useful. But Madam Speaker, that my style is to do everything with intention. And so the intention started as an idea, was written down, and today into legislation. Now compare the one person to apply for the residency by investment program to the 40 applications that we've received thus far. I say that it is working pretty well. I don't like to play politics. If I have a compliment to give, I give it with no reservation to whomever it is deserving. And when people play politics with things that don't even need to be political, they end up with eggs on their faces. But if it's like the residency program, it would be one egg. Madam Speaker, tourism was never really my thing before. I went to school to study hospitality. Sorry, hospitality was never my thing. I went to school to study hospitality, and I fell in love with tourism. I fell in love with the side where policy and ideas and what a place can be, the concept of what a place can be, transforms and grows into what it becomes with hard work and a dedicated team. Because if you do not have a dedicated team, Madam Speaker, what you will only have is good ideas. And my learned colleague, the Honorable Single-Wide Representative, Mr. Vanterpool, mentioned that this was first his idea. But if he had a dedicated team, Madam Speaker, this would have been done long before. So don't come talking about whose idea is what, who said what first, or who did what last. This team can say that it is done, and done well. This is phase one. So you would notice that this program is geared primarily towards tourism. At a time where COVID-19 is the major concern in tourism right now, we realize that it is safer to make Anguilla attractive to long-term guests. They do their 2-week quarantine. We don't have to worry about them doing bubbles activities in the bubble, because after that, they'll be here and they will have the opportunity, like my colleague, member for Road South said, to rent from Anguillians, purchase from Anguillian grocery stores, drive with Anguillian rental cars, and even in some cases, have their children in Anguillian schools, because that is also a part of the program, because we are appealing to families. But beyond that, Anguilla boasts of its internet, its access, although it is not highly accessible because we don't have an airport, but it is close to main hubs. And it is also close, it is in the same time zone as the United States of America. All of these things help to make Anguilla an attractive place for a program like this. And in the future, Madam Speaker, you will see many more changes to this program as we move away from it being COVID-related to a program that stands alone on itself, by itself. What we are looking for, Madam Speaker, is not tens of thousands, but a few good people, and by few I say probably 100 or so, good people, to move to Anguilla and call it home, and experience what life in Anguilla can be like. And from that, as Mr. Hughes would have mentioned, we have persons who may decide to make further investments here, for persons who may decide to become Anguillan citizens on another track. This program is by no means a pathway to citizenship, but we all know that it can lead to that. Many of our best hotels started out with persons visiting Anguilla, seeing what Anguilla could be, and then deciding to become investors. So we never know where this program can lead. We have many things that we can do. There are many places that we can go with this program. But similar to the start of the tourism reopening, which began on August 21st, this is just phase one. I look forward to seeing this program growing into something that stands on its own 2 feet, something that goes beyond tourism. And I believe that the team in the Department of Labor and Immigration will do so regardless of who is in power at the time when it is right. And they have done hard work. It was a few short conversations that we would have had between myself and them to see what the idea could be, and the Honorable Attorney General to see what could be. And now today, we are discussing about what is. I'd like to publicly thank them for their hard work, for bringing this far, because an idea will only be an idea. But when you have a team like the ladies and gentlemen in the Anguilla Public Service, things go well and things move fast. Sometimes it may feel like it's taken forever, because right now it's 6 months in, and this idea was advertised about 3 months ago. But we are here, and I'm proud to be here with this team. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Single Island-wide Electoral District Member, Ms. Quincy Adams-Murray. Any other contributions? If there are no other contributions, I invite the mover to please respond.
Madam Speaker, I'm very heartened by the contributions that have come from both sides of the House to this bill. And it speaks well to the fact that as elected members in this House, we come here to promote bills that are in the best interests of the development of this country. Madam Speaker, I just wanted to highlight, because it came up, one or two things with this amendment. And the fact that, Madam Speaker, in the bill, it says a person to whom permission is granted under this section shall only be permitted to work remotely for a non-Anguillan company or work as a self-employed person. No self-employed persons to whom permission is granted under this section shall offer any goods or services to persons in Anguilla. And where a person contravenes subsections 3 and 4, permission granted under this section to reside and work remotely from Anguilla may be revoked. So, Madam Speaker, we have put in the necessary safeguards to our local business enterprises that they will not be impacted by this digital nomad program. Madam Speaker, just about 2 Fridays ago, I was down at a function at the community college, a very lovely lunch catered by some students. And I made it my business to sit with the chairman of the ACC, Dr. Ronald Harrigan, to speak to him about how the community college can begin to work to build training programs for our hospitality workers in particular. And then I had a good opportunity to run into my new Bayesian friend, Dr. Kenneth Williams, the president. And again, I had a similar conversation with him. So I'm very heartened that in 2021, Madam Speaker, the community college will further broaden its programs to continue to build our hospitality sector, Madam Speaker. Every morning I wake up, I look east out of my window, and I see the construction going on just up the road from me on the community college, and I'm very heartened to see that because that's a sign of progress. Madam Speaker, I want to assure our hospitality workers in Anguilla that this is not taking bread out of their pockets, that we in the Ministry and Department of Labor are very much committed to ensuring the well-being of our workers. And Madam Speaker, we have put in place a regime of new conditions and stipulations with our work permit applications, Madam Speaker, to ensure that our workers are not disenfranchised in this very fragile market when jobs are very few and in between. We are doing our utmost best to ensure that the interests of our local skilled workers are taken into consideration. And of course, in 2021, when we receive some new programs being rolled out with the community college, we continue to build the capacity and capabilities of our local workers. So, Madam Speaker, once again, I want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the House for their real able support of this legislation this morning.
Thank you, Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled Immigration and Passport Amendment Act 2020 be now read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to amend the Immigration and Passport Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter I-5.
Under Rule 54 of the Legislative Assembly Rules of Procedure, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole Assembly to be considered clause by clause. Assembly and committee, I also now invite the technical staff, Chief Immigration Officer, Ms. Laureen Bryan, and Labor Commissioner Acting, Ms. Shamisha Hodge, into the Assembly, please.
Clauses 1 through 2.
Consideration for clauses 1 through 2. I put the question that clauses 1 through 2 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting.
Madam Speaker, the bill before the House has passed through committee stage without amendment and is now ready for its third reading.
A bill for Immigration and Passport Amendment Act 2020, third reading.
Madam Speaker, a bill for Immigration and Passport Amendment Act 2020 has now successfully passed through. I move for the bill to be read a third time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill entitled Immigration and Passport Amendment Act 2020 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to amend the Immigration and Passport Act, revised statutes of Anguilla, Chapter I-5.
Bill read a third time and passed.
A bill for Financial Intelligence Unit Act 2020, second reading.
It has been requested for a slight amendment to the order of business for the Financial Intelligence Unit Act to be moved up. So I beg leave of the Assembly for that request to be honored. Thank you. Leave granted. Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you so very kindly, Madam Speaker. In a way, I have been slightly taken by surprise in that even though I have made the request, I was hustling to complete so many of my duties, including duties before this House in relation to another bill, which is being moved by my colleague, the Honorable Minister, with respect for economic development and other matters. I would like also to thank my colleagues for the indulgence of the House in this regard. This time of the year, as you would appreciate, Madam Speaker and others, that one is quickened to resolve a lot of things while we are still experiencing usual days, as it were. So, Madam Speaker, thank you. Thank you all, colleagues. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill shortly entitled the Financial Intelligence Unit Bill 2020 be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I rise.
Many thanks. Madam Speaker, this legislative initiative should not detain us for very long, and the reason would become very obvious. The objects and reasons may be shortly stated in the following terms. The Financial Intelligence Unit Bill provides for the establishment of the Financial Intelligence Unit for the investigation, detection, prevention, and control of financial crimes and for connected matters. Now, immediately one might wonder, why should there be a bill for its establishment when in reality it exists? It exists now as a part of the RAPF. There are certain international protocols which have been extended to Anguilla in relation to the Financial Action Task Force and the international protocols on money laundering and anti-money laundering investigations, and the agreements in relation to the prevention of corruption those have obliged signatories to establish a legal regime where the authority or unit or group of specialized investigators and public officers are trained to monitor and to investigate those criminal conduct or crimes of that nature. The intention is for them to be completely independent of certain authority figures of the executive. Under the Adjournment Agreement, it is not desirable for a unit or an authority of this kind to be controlled by a commissioner of police, for the very reason that investigations into financial crimes may involve investigation of the police themselves. Secondly, authorities that regulate financial services do not investigate themselves and should have no control or purview over such an authority. Hence, the need to establish it as an independent department of government. The Financial Intelligence Unit Bill consists of 35 clauses. Part 1, as a preliminary part, deals with the interpretation of the bill. Part 2 establishes the Financial Intelligence Unit and specifies the composition and functions and powers of same, that is, of the unit. It also provides for the delegation of powers by the director of the unit and stipulates the secrecy obligations that must be observed by a person pursuant to this bill. It also makes provision for the protection of persons exercising functions, and I dare say lawful functions, under the bill. Part 3 deals with the duties of the director. It makes provision for the appointment of the director, specifies the grounds for disqualification and qualification of the director. It also provides details relating to the tenure of such director and specifies the responsibilities of the director. It also outlines the reporting obligation to be observed by the director of the FIU, who, like any head of department, will be a reporting officer and an accounting officer. But there are two distinct features of this bill which would be, and I hope, would be of significant interest, and I will come to it very shortly. Part 4 deals with the production and obtaining of information for the purposes of carrying out investigation or complying with international obligations, like those I mentioned by way of introduction moments ago. Pursuant to this bill and an agreement, this part outlines the procedure for requesting information from any person believed to be in possession of that desired information. It also stipulates how information received pursuant to a request made under this bill is to be used and otherwise treated. Part 5 deals with offenses and penalties created under this bill. These offenses apply to natural and legal persons. Natural persons and legal persons. Legal persons, of course, being corporations and corporate bodies. Part 6 makes provision for general matters which are dealt with under this bill. This part provides that the director may require that persons keep records as specified by the director. It also specifies the retention period for information kept under this bill and agreements made pursuant to the bill. This part also specifies that the Attorney General is to be kept informed concerning the conduct of certain investigations conducted under this bill. Naturally so, because under the Constitution, the Attorney General has a prosecutorial function. Part 7 finally makes provision for the making of regulations under this bill and deals with consequential amendments and transitional provisions arising under the bill. The schedule to this bill details the oath to be taken by persons appointed as members of the staff of the FIU. Madam Speaker, before I give way to members for their contribution, may I just advert to what I consider significant features of this bill that we must pay attention to. Under the Money Laundering Act, the Money Laundering Authority is created. That authority under the Proceeds of Crime Act was designated as the reporting authority in relation to the obligations that I mentioned at the beginning of my contribution in introducing this bill. The superintendents, or the role given in relation to those obligations by the Money Laundering Authority, which is set up by a different enactment, is detailed under the Proceeds of Crime Act in Section 117 to 122. In essence, from Section 117 to 122, this reporting authority, which is comprised, just to name a few, of a person from the Customs, a person designated by the Commissioner of Police or the Commissioner of Police himself, the Director of the FSC, and one or two others, comprised the legal personality, if you will, of what was intended by those agreements to be the FIU. Their composition in and of themselves run counter to what I alluded to earlier when I introduced the bill, in that the intention is for this authority to operate outside of and beyond any sort of influence by these authority figures, such as the Commissioner of Police and financial regulatory people. This bill seeks to address that by the separation and establishment as an independent department. The features I wish to highlight that may be of interest to members is that as it exists now, there is a loose legal and legislative framework for the guidance of this authority. As it is known now, it is influenced both by the police and financial regulation officials, which allows for matters to be pulled in one direction or the other depending on the extent of influence. Under this loose legislative arrangement that obtains now, the actual reporting on what the authority is supposed to do during the course of a year, a fiscal year, is not generally, widely, and publicly known, because under this loose arrangement, reports go to the governor personally in confidence. Now that must be distinguished between information about a confidential investigation. What they actually do in a year, how much money is spent on anything, is not generally and publicly known. Under this bill, first feature to note is that it will be laid before Parliament as a report every year. Just as is laid before Parliament the finances, the conduct, achievements, pitfalls, challenges of every public body established by an enactment, that is to say statutory corporations. This one, for transparency and democratic adherence, it will be open to full view, a report every single year. Now, of course, logically one will not expect in this report any information on investigations of a sensitive nature conducted, but certainly report on how monies are being spent, what has been done in any particular period, certainly for the year, by this authority, by the unit. That's the first feature. The second, you would observe that in the schedule, there is an oath to be taken by officers, which is unlike the oath taken by us members of this House and certain senior constitutional figures under the Constitution. Let not your heart be troubled. There is nothing unlawful about it. In fact, the enactments in other territories for the establishment of the unit, Financial Intelligence Unit, have similar oaths to be taken by officers. But what is significant about this one is that the oath of allegiance is to Anguilla and the Constitution. So that this is very much an Anguilla FIU bill. Very much the case. My distinguished friends on the side opposite will no doubt remember that it is a feature not only of my personality but of my professionalism and our experience having worked together for some time, is that, Madam Speaker, I am always keen. I'm not an oppositionist, and I am not unduly negative or suspicious, but I am always keen when we are adopting something from somewhere else. I'm keen to know how it will fit here. Because no two societies are alike, and the situation on the ground in different countries will vary. And there is a danger in wholesale adopting a pilot bill or a bill from other places without understanding the nuances of your own circumstances and why others do as they do and why you don't necessarily have to or shouldn't do as they do. It is intended that in all of the territories and states that have signed on to these agreements that govern anti-money laundering, counterterrorism financing, and corruption investigations and detections, to pass similar legislation. And that is what I fasten on, Madam Speaker. Not to pass the same one, to pass similar legislation. So I and my friend, we have a similar suit made by the same person. Might be Calvin Klein, but it's not the same cut, but similar suit, not the same cut. The point being is that this bill was approached very carefully, in that this bill was formulated months ago, before the coming into office of this administration. And even upon coming to office of this administration, it was taken to council for the input, view, and authority of the present administration. Even then and thereafter approval was given, it was still further refined. So, Madam Speaker, even though, unfortunately for me, I will not be one of those proud officers who will have the opportunity to take such an oath in the schedule under Section 12, Section 11. But certainly this is a good step forward, and no instrument is perfect. We are not here for perfection. but we are here for progress. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for your kind indulgence, and to colleagues, and I commend the bill to the entire House.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Just before I invite debate, I just want to acknowledge the presence of past chaplain and an elder from our community, Mr. Clive Smith. Welcome. Thank you. Now I invite debate on the merits and principles of this bill. Members wishing to make a contribution may now do so. Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Joseph Vanterpool.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my comments on this matter will be brief. I rise in support of this bill solely for the reason that I think it is wise to have an independent body, a body that exists outside of government, outside of the executive, and outside of the police, that keeps a watchful eye over these same persons. I think that a useful feature of this legislation is that it will keep our leaders, our law enforcement, and our protectors honest while they serve the people of Anguilla in carrying out the duties to which they were provided. Madam Speaker, as I listen to the Honorable Attorney General give his objects and reasons for the bill presented, I became a bit more comfortable with a few of the areas that initially I was just like, okay, we're going to have to look into this, but I am confident that it seems that a meticulous effort was made to go through this bill and to have it properly adapted to Anguilla and its situation. And on that note, I will say I love the idea of taking an oath to Anguilla. Madam Speaker, as someone whose focus in the technology area is geared towards security, I couldn't help on focusing on those aspects that were presented in relation to security. Aspects such as privacy. I was happy to see that, especially in the reports that are expected to be laid before the House and thus be made public, that there was ensured that all personally identifiable information would be removed so as to protect the privacy of the citizens involved. I know that this is something that, especially within a small society, it will not be easy to do, especially because you can take out so-and-so's name, but if you talk about so-and-so for long enough, everyone will know who so-and-so is. So even though I am sure the government and the Attorney General's chambers may still have some difficulty getting around this, I am glad to see the forward thinking in the sense that they realize this is an issue that needs to be addressed. So I'm happy to see that the bill caters for that. Other aspects that I was happy to see that the bill took into consideration was that of data retention, that of data access, and most importantly, that of violations when persons exist outside of the scope of what is mandated here today. So, Madam Speaker, I rise in full support. I would like to thank the Attorney General for his comments. I would like to congratulate government for bringing this bill to the House today, but I'd also like to thank the members of the opposition. I cannot take any claim to this as I was not elected or a part of that decision-making process, but who the Honorable Attorney General would have indicated started the process before passing the baton to the existing government. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member. Are there any other contributions?
Thank you very much.
Honorable Member for Road South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to give full support to this bill. It's something that I, in my previous life as a talk show host, have been calling for a very long time. And I'm not going to say that I am responsible for this because I'm not. Although, if you look at the rules of procedure as it relates to governance and executive council, government is run on the principle of collective responsibility. And while it is that we have got to this stage, we got to this stage because the members of the executive council agreed that this is the direction in which we should go. So my pronouncements over the years that we should have a separation of our powers and so forth, and also to remove the oversight of the Financial Investigative Unit from the Commissioner of Police, whoever that may be, he or she. It's good to see that we're here. And Madam Speaker, I want to say the Attorney General said something in his presentation, his opening stanza, that I can testify to. And he said, and I quote, he always is keen to see how legislation fits here in Anguilla's context. And that is true. I've seen him in operation several times, Madam Speaker. As we move forward with our aggressive legislative agenda, he's always, especially when it comes to social legislation, say, how does your goals as it relates to legislative change fits in the context of our unique position here in Anguilla, because we are a unique country and a unique people. And when I hear about the passing of the baton over and over and over, Madam Speaker, I'm always keen to recognize that this is a new government. And if the grandfather of the House was here today, as he said, when I entered the House in 2010, he said, you are a rookie, Madam Speaker. He said that. He pointed across and he said, you are a rookie, along where he said that I'm unelected and unelectable. But be that as it may, Madam Speaker, we are past that now, because the people of Road South have decided that the member for Valley North was wrong. But when you look at this team, Madam Speaker, you can safely say that there's a number of rookies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is my maths correct? 6 rookies on this side of the House, Madam Speaker. And in 6 months, Madam Speaker, all of this legislation that should have been done so long ago is coming to this House, Madam Speaker. And if Brother Clive was in the House, he would have said, amen. Amen. So, Madam Speaker, I rise in full support and to let the public know that we will be coming to this House time and time again, Madam Speaker, not wasting the House time, Madam Speaker, but to ensure that we give full justice to this House and bring the legislation that moves Anguilla into a modern, responsible, accountable country. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Road South. Are there any other contributions? Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge.
Madam Speaker, I too rise to support this bill. Madam Speaker, when over the years I have heard some very negative comments made about politics and politicians and the passing of money under the table and politicians going to office to get rich and benefit from being elected, and a whole host of comments that generally spoke ill of politics. It was put over as a vehicle that persons could enrich in themselves. And I commend this bill because, Madam Speaker, government has been too long regarded as secret, as not volunteering information, as not being open and transparent. And this bill, Madam Speaker, deals with financial crimes and proceeds of crimes and so forth, but to me, it also helps to keep us as politicians, as persons that are entrusted to high office in this land, to keep us honest, to let us know that we are now directly accountable for the actions we take, the decisions we make. And so, Madam Speaker, I would like to support this bill because at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, we have to all give account for what we do, our actions that we carry out. And I must say, Madam Speaker, that is why I am so proud to be a member of this team of fine young men and women, you know, capable leader here, Dr. Ellis Lorenzo Webster, you know, and the things that we have done since coming to office, the fact that we have been able to come to the people and give them a state of the nation where we put the finances out there. And it is not that we are seeking to micromanage our various statutory bodies and organizations. We are simply trying, Madam Speaker, to get things done right, to get the operations of these bodies properly regulated, properly administered, Madam Speaker. And it's been a struggle. In these few short months, the things that we have uncovered will rise here on your head sometimes. And it tells us, Madam Speaker, that the time has come for us as an administration, as a people, to demand from the people that we put in these positions accountability, transparency, to ensure that, Madam Speaker, we give to the people of Anguilla the very best that we can give in terms of the work that we are required to do. So I see this bill, Madam Speaker, as a further opportunity to ensure that we bring that level of transparency and accountability, because at the end of the day, when persons do wrong things, sometimes they are given a tap on the shoulder. But this legislation, Madam Speaker, not only exposes, but it also infringes strict penalties, Madam Speaker, for those who break the law. And so, AG, I must commend the chambers for this bill, and I heartily commend it, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member, for your contribution. Are there any other contributions? If there are no other contributions, I invite the mover to respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and to colleagues. I don't have much else to urge upon the conscience and minds of colleagues in the House, because it appears to me quite clear that this legislative initiative has been embraced by the parties opposite to each other. So there is unity of purpose in moving forward with this initiative. But I still want to pause to stress something. When I first came, very immediately thereafter, my appointment by His Excellency, I discerned that there was a distinctive national pride and persona in this island. And it is not very difficult for someone who is aware of one's surroundings and at least would take the time to acquaint oneself with the recent history of this paradisal island to come to the same discernment or realization that I came to. And so we thought that it would fit well in that persona and that ethos that and perhaps as a signal of something to come, that we encourage the expression of this nationalism more formally and more officially in this bill, in the oath that was prepared in the schedule to the bill. It is an oath of allegiance to Anguilla and to uphold the Constitution and laws of Anguilla. And so it is significant in that context. That's why I pause to stress that. At the time of its formulation, the thought that tickled was, AG, we could do that? It's not a queen we had to pledge allegiance to? We could actually do that? And so that is where the minds of the formulators at the time were. And the short answer is yes. The allegiance to the Queen that we pledge when we come to take up offices of the kind and kinds that we hold now, positions that we're in now, we must take that oath because the Constitution obliges us to take that oath. Bodies and entities like this one, created under law by this assembly, don't have the same obligation to impose an oath of the kind that we take. So that left with some freedom to give expression to national pride in that way. And I don't think it is often done, but I will take the opportunity here now, and I will speak for myself, and I hope I have the liberty of the tongue to speak for colleagues in government and my distinguished friends opposite in thanking the drafting department of the AGC, which is a workhouse in the heart of government. They are often not seen, not flamboyant. Their positions are not the ones that are seen by photo opportunities and photographs and social media pictures and moving scenes. But they enable all of what we are doing here today. We can't discuss bills, we can't do any of that if they didn't make it happen. So, Madam Speaker, I wish to publicly register my appreciation for all that they have done and all that they are doing, particularly at this time of the year when we reflect on what we have gone through. My very many thanks to, well, I can't say ladies and gentlemen, but ladies in that department. I think a wise man said, if you want something done, well, you give it to a woman to do. So, but these ladies have actually kept our wheels turning. And so we must recognize that. Also, Madam Speaker, just let me say too, that, and I am sure the Honorable Premier and Minister of Finance would take keen interest in this aspect. You would notice from the structure of this bill, even though it is establishing the unit as an independent entity, arm of the government, it does not create a headache for my distinguished colleague, the Honorable Premier and Minister of Finance in relation to the public purse. Because as a matter of fact, it exists as an operation now already. So you're not creating new things for for a run on the minister's pocket, proverbial pocket, that is. So I think I needed to mention that, and those are my closing remarks on this aspect of the bill and the structure. I thank my colleagues for their contribution in this regard. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled the Financial Intelligence Unit Act 2020 be now read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to make provision for the establishment of a department of government to be known as the Financial Intelligence Unit for the investigation, detection, prevention, and control of financial crimes and for connected matters.
Under Rule 54 of the Legislative Assembly Rules of Procedure, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole Assembly to be considered clause by clause. Assembly in committee.
Clauses 1 through 2.
I put the question that clauses 1 through 2 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clauses 3 through 12.
Clauses 3 to 12 for consideration. I put the question that clauses 3 to 12 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clauses 13 through 19.
I put the question. Clauses 13 through 19 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clauses 20 through 28.
I put the question that clauses 20 to 28 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clauses 29 through 35.
I put the question that clauses 29 through 35 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The schedule.
I put the question that the schedule do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting. The mover may report.
Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the bill entitled Financial Intelligence Unit Act 2020 has passed through committee without amendments and is ready for its third reading.
Financial Intelligence Unit Act 2020, third reading.
I beg to move that the bill entitled Financial Intelligence Unit Act 2020 be read a third time and passed.
Is there someone to second?
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill entitled Financial Intelligence Unit Act 2020 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to make provision for the establishment of a department of government to be known as the Financial Intelligence Unit for the investigation, detection, prevention, and control of financial crimes and for connected matters.
Bill read a third time and passed.
A bill for Anguilla Economic Residence, Amendment
Madam
Number 2 Act.
Excuse me, Madam Speaker. Point of order. I would like to suggest that we,
Point of order.
sorry?
Point of order.
Sorry. my
Yes.
bad. No, I say I'd just like to suggest that we break at this time and come back for 1 o'clock. Because we have a number of bills here, and I don't think we're going to get through all of them before 12, before
What
noon.
time is it now?
So it's 11:45.
So you haven't been in here 2 hours, member?
Sorry?
You have not been in here 2 hours as yet.
Yeah, but I have been on the clock for
Okay.
4 hours.
Can I invite you to take a snack from the back and come back and sit in the assembly?
Most definitely.
Thank
Madam
you,
Speaker.
thank
You
you.
have snacks in the
Let's
back? Madam Speaker?
continue.
You have snacks in the back?
Please check. Thank you. Can we please continue?
A bill for Anguilla Economic Residence, Amendment Number 2 Act 2020, second reading.
Madam Speaker, I rise to move that the bill shortly entitled Anguilla Economic Residence Amendment Number 2 Act 2020 be read a second time.
I'd like to second, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, the objects and reasons of this bill. This bill seeks to amend the Anguilla Economic Residence Act 2019, Act Number 15, 2019, to provide an avenue for persons who have already invested in property in Anguilla, that is, before the 31st May 2019. It is to obtain residence by investment. It also makes consequential and other minor amendments to the principal act. Of those minor amendments, Madam Speaker, things like changing the responsibility from the Ministry of Finance to the Ministry of Economic Development. Now that we have this fifth ministry, which is the Ministry of Economic Development, it is now under the responsibility of this ministry. Another one of the minor adjustments is revising the definition of police certificate, the requirement for a police certificate to be consistent as it relates to the different jurisdictions. Another one of those changes, minor changes, Madam Speaker, is removing the age limit at the age restriction of 18 years old for the performance of due diligence. It was brought to our attention that due diligence were taking place on everybody, whether you were above the age of 18 or under the age of 18. And fees were being charged, permit fees, application fees, all these fees were being charged. But there was a clause in here that said due diligence 18 years of age or older. So we took it out so that government and the agents can all receive their due fees, which is better for Anguilla and for the agents. Of the major changes in this bill, Madam Speaker, the retroactive feature of this residency by investment program, making it indefinite. As the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary stated earlier, new applicants to the program, new investors into the program, it's only one that has been on the table since the inception of this program. The success of it so far has been the retroactive feature, where people who have invested in property from long ago, they are able to now apply, and they are able to spend more time in Anguilla because of this. They just won't come for winter. They would be able to come and stay for much longer time, much longer periods. So, Madam Speaker, those are some of the changes, some of the amendments that are taking place within this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member. I now invite debate on the merits and principles of this bill. Members wishing to make a contribution may now do so. Honorable Member for Sandy Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've been here for about an hour, but now that I'm on my feet, I wish to first apologize to you and to this Honorable House for my delay in arriving. There was an urgent matter that I had to attend to, which was a cause for that delay, and so I do apologize for that. Madam Speaker, I rise to give support to the Anguilla Economics Residence Amendment Number 2 Act 2020. And the original Economic Residence Act would have been passed by the former Anguilla United Front government in 2019. And it was during that time that there would have been a discussion and a realization that we ought to make provision for economic residency. Now, many persons may or may not know that we are unable to issue passports as many do in other countries. And so while we are unable to give economic citizenship, we are able to provide economic residency. And as the mover of this bill would have made mention, the importance of this section, particularly Section 3, allows for persons who own the property in Anguilla to obtain economic residency, so that even when the Principal Act was passed in 2019, there was a retroactive aspect of it that allowed persons to be able to benefit from economic residence. I've long been a proponent, Madam Speaker, of the economic residency opportunity being afforded to persons who would have invested in Anguilla when there was no need to invest in Anguilla. And when I say that, I mean that we have many persons that live with us, visit us year after year continuously. And those persons, Madam Speaker, would have come to Anguilla when some would say Anguilla had little to offer. Of course, we have our beaches, we have our people. But at the same time, these persons chose to come to Anguilla, invest in Anguilla by purchasing property, building homes, and being able to reside in Anguilla from time to time while they visited us. And so, ma'am, for those persons that will have come long before the economic residency program was passed in 2019, I've always been of the view that they ought to be allowed the opportunity to be able to become economic residents. And so I applaud the extensions that have been provided in paragraph 3. Madam Speaker, I also would like to say that the economic residency program, whereas it allows economic residency, under our previous immigration and passport laws. Our chief immigration officer does have the ability to provide for persons to be able to stay in Anguilla for up to 1 year. And that had been in the Immigration and Passport Act for some time. But that length of time would not have allowed economic residency to have been obtained. And so persons that would have come during the winter period, etc., many persons would come in through the ports and would be given a stamp of perhaps 3 months to be able to come and go. But there are a number of persons that would not have realized that even beyond visiting the port of entry, a visit to the immigration department, along with proof of ownership of the home, etc., would allow for the chief immigration officer to extend the time so that when they come and go, you won't constantly have a stamp and stamping out their passports. And so during my time as Minister of Immigration, I was able to assist many persons in resolving the issues that they had in terms of not wanting their passports to be stamped out with a constant ingress and egress. And so the Economic Residence Program has been something that has been with us now since 2019. We know that the retroactive aspect has been more profitable because, of course, our persons that are in Anguilla would like to know that they have, in addition to a home, that they have a status that has more influence, that is more substantive than just a simple visitor. Because at this point in time, once they've invested in Anguilla and invested in the people of Anguilla, in terms of the purchasing of land, in terms of the hiring of employees, they would like to know that they're a part of Anguilla too. And this economic residency program allows for that. And so I commend the Single Island Wide member for the Minister of Economic Development. I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to the new ministry. The member for the Minister of Economic Development for bringing this amendment to the House, and I give it my full support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Sandy Hill. Honorable Member for Road South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much for this, the suggestion of the snack. I feel energized and ready to go. So I my sincere gratitude to you. But I also rise, Madam Speaker, to give the Honorable Minister of Economic Development and many other things, the Single Island Wide candidate, full support for this amendment. And I also am very happy, Madam Speaker, to be standing here in the House today, also with the Honorable Deputy Governor, who in his previous life was the investment officer, trade and investment officer in the Ministry of Finance. And we were able to do a lot of good work. And that's why we can't come down, Madam Speaker. But be that as it may, Madam Speaker, it was in 2014 when the Trade and Investment Officer, now Deputy Governor, and I worked very hard on an Anguilla residency program, Madam Speaker. And we were able to present a paper, even though we are not members of the Executive Council. The former Minister of Finance and Mr. Hubert Hughes was the Minister of Finance at the time, and we were able to work on a paper, Madam Speaker, that went to Executive Council in 2014 to develop a committee to move towards residency by investment, Madam Speaker. And if I dare say, Madam Speaker, some of the members of that committee would have been Sutcliffe Hodge, former leader of the opposition, Ms. Pam Webster, the former Premier, Mr. Victor Banks, Mr. Claudel Romney, and many others, Deputy Governor, as you recall, Madam Speaker. And we met to discuss moving forward, but lo and behold, it was just a few months before the 2015 general election, and it did not take hold. But a smooth baton, Madam Speaker, without spikes and without prickles were passed on. And I must give the other side credit for moving forward almost 5 years later, Madam Speaker, and getting the residency by investment passed through the House. And I must say, there was a lot of criticism on this program, a lot of criticism, because some persons believe that we were selling out our citizenship, you know. And I just want to let the public know that the government of Anguilla cannot give citizenship. The government of Anguilla has no jurisdiction over passports. No one can go up to the minister, the premier, Madam Speaker, and submit an application for a passport, and the premier goes into his bottom drawer, pulls out a passport, affix a picture, and give that person a passport, Madam Speaker. So there's no way that any government, any executive council, Madam Speaker, can give citizenship to anybody. There's a process, and prior, and we also know, Madam Speaker, that even as it relates to our citizenship, and these are just facts, I mean, it may not be the prettiest language, but we are British Overseas Territory citizens. And if you look at our Constitution, you'll note, Madam Speaker, that consular affairs and citizenship falls under the purview of Her Majesty's government through the governor. If you look at your British Overseas Territories passport, Madam Speaker, because I've never had a British passport, Madam Speaker. I don't even know why it feels like to be in my hand. I'm a British Overseas Territory citizen. In some other countries, they call it a colony. I'm a colonial subject, Madam Speaker. And you realize in that passport, on the signature as it relates to who gives you that passport, it says the governor. So I just want the public to know, as a matter of information, I know a lot of people know, but there's a lot of people who do not know as well, that the government of Anguilla cannot sell citizenship and cannot grant citizenship. And this bill and the amendments thereof is long overdue, probably 20, 30 years overdue, but we are here right now, and we're moving forward, and I would not be surprised if in the near future we will not come back to this honorable House and make further amendments, because in the capable hands of the honorable single wild candidate, Mr. Kyle Hodge, he continues to dig down deep, Madam Speaker, and study these things and see where they need amendments as necessary, brings them to the Executive Council, is presented, and the Attorney General and his team works hard to ensure that we can come to the House and plug the holes, as they would say, Madam Speaker. So again, I give full support to this bill, and I thank you for the snacks.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Honorable Member for Road South. Are there any other contributions? If there are no other contributions, can I invite the mover to respond, please?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member from Road South and also the member from Sandy Hill for their public support of this bill. Madam Speaker, Anguilla is a very attractive place. It's a safe haven during this global pandemic. And this amendment, Madam Speaker, it gives shelter, so to speak, to those who wants to come and enjoy what Anguilla has to offer. Madam Speaker, it's important to point out that the folks who will come and visit us on a long-term basis, they're not coming here to be a threat to job, to businesses. They're coming here to support the economy, and that is always welcomed. They're coming here, and they can work remotely as well. And just earlier in this House, we passed Madam Speaker. These are the things that will make this country stable and attractive.
Number 2, Act 2020 be now read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to amend the Anguilla Economic Residence Act 2019, Act number 15 of 2019.
Under Rule 54 of the Legislative Assembly Rules of Procedure, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole Assembly to be considered clause by clause. Assembly in committee.
Clauses 1 through 10.
I put the question that clauses 1 through 10 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting. I invite the mover to report.
Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the bill titled Anguilla Economic Residency Amendment Act number 2, Amendment number 2 Act 2020 has now passed to committee and is now ready for its third reading.
A bill for Anguilla Economic Residence Amendment number 2 Act 2020, third reading.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill entitled Anguilla Economic Residence Amendment number 2 2020 be read a third time and passed.
Madam Speaker, I rise a second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill entitled Anguilla Economic Residence Amendment number 2 Act 2020 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to amend the Anguilla Economic Residence Act 2019, Act number 15 of 2019.
Bill read a third time and passed.
A bill for Select Anguilla Agency, Amendment number 2 Act 2020, second reading.
Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Kyle Hodge.
Madam Speaker, I rise again to move that the bill shortly entitled Select Anguilla Agency Amendment number 2 Act 2020 be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I rise a second.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, the objects and reasons of this bill is to amend the Select Anguilla Agency Act to remove reference to the Ministry of Finance and substitute with the Ministry of Economic Development and Investment, which is now separate from the Ministry of Finance. It is anticipated that regardless of potential future changes to ministries, the Residency by Investment Program operated by Select Anguilla Agency will be aligned with the ministry responsible for economic development and investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite debate on the merits and principles of this bill. Honorable Single Island Wide Electoral District Member, Mr. Kenneth Hodge.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill. The fact that we now have a Ministry of Economic Development as a separate entity, Madam Speaker, where before it used to be under the Ministry of Finance, I think is commendable. What is even more commendable for me, Madam Speaker, is the fact that we have a young, aggressive minister who, since coming to office, has been doing a real good job, Madam Speaker, of meeting with the farmers, with the fishermen, and who has been doing a really good job at generating economic activity for this island. I say commendable because we are now in the throes of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has shut down a lot of what would have been traditionally our economic engines, such as the tourism industry. What this has done is caused us to refocus, to really think on things that are really important. And I believe the minister, his heart is in the right place, and that we will see wonderful things happening under this Ministry of Economic Development in the years to come, not only to 2025, but to 2030 and beyond. So, Minister, I would like to commend you, and I wish you the best as you forge ahead in really building economic opportunities for this country. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Member for Road South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I too rise to give full support to the Minister and for presenting this bill. And I also want to remind us that all of the bills that are being presented today in the House were taken to the public for public consultation so that the general public can weigh in on their views, whether in writing, whether in person, or via social media. Quite a few people actually watched the public consultation that we held just last week, Minister? Just last week. And to be honest with you, the toughest questions came from the Honorable Premier, but be that as it may, be that as it may, you know, we were able to afford the public the opportunity to weigh in on these bills, and even on some of the bills that we will have today that will have in their first reading. Already, we have already taken them to the public for public consultation, and invariably we receive calls, Madam Speaker, on a day-to-day basis, asking more information on these bills that are presented. So again, I would just like to thank the Minister and his colleagues for bringing forth this bill, and he has our full support on it. And I believe he has the full support of the House as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Road South. Are there any other contributions? If there are no other contributions, can I please invite the mover to respond?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Member, Single-Wide, Island-Wide District, Mr. Hodge, for his kind words. And I thank Mr. Hughes for his support as well. Thank you in general, Madam Speaker, to the technical staff, Permanent Secretary, and everyone, Attorney General's Chamber, who have all worked together diligently to get all these amendments through. This is really nothing to debate, Madam Speaker. It's a simple change with the addition of the 5th ministry. We might be back again in the future with similar insignificant but necessary changes, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, members, for your contributions. It has been moved and seconded that a bill entitled Select Anguilla Agency Amendment Number 2 Act 2020 be now read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to amend the Select Anguilla Agency Act 2019, Act number 16 of 2019.
Under Rule 54 of the Legislative Assembly Rules of Procedure, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole Assembly to be considered clause by clause. Assembly and committee?
Clauses 1 through 2.
I put the question that clauses 1 through 2 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clause 3.
Madam Chair, I beg to move the following amendment. In clause 3, in the amending paragraph A, delete the word of once directly after the word ministry. Was a slight typo.
That's the only amendment. Can someone second?
I second.
Thank you. I put the question that clause 3A, we are amending the word of, so we are removing the word, one of the ofs, directly after the word ministry. I put the question that this do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
Amendment to that. I put the question that clause 4 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting. The mover may report.
Madam Speaker, I beg to report that the bill, Select Anguilla Amendment Number 2, Act 2020, has passed through committee stage with amendments and is now ready for its third reading.
A bill for Select Anguilla Agency, Amendment Number 2, Act 2020, third reading.
Move for passage.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill entitled Select Anguilla Amendment Number 2, Act 2020 be read a third time and passed.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill entitled Select Anguilla Agency Amendment Number 2, Act 2020 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to amend the Select Anguilla Agency Act 2019, Act Number 16 of 2019.
Bill read a third time and passed.
A bill for Merchant Shipping Amendment Act 2020, second reading.
Honorable Member for Road South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I move that the bill, shortly entitled A Bill for Merchant Shipping Amendment Act 2020, be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
You may give an explanation, Member.
Madam Speaker, as you know, we are part of the global village. And as such, it is imperative on us that we keep our legislative framework up to speed with the rest of the world, because we cannot be separate and apart from the rest of the world. And so we are bringing this bill to the House to ensure that our legislative framework is in keeping with the rest of the world, and we hope that this bill be passed through the House. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
I now invite debate on merits and principles of this bill. Members wishing to make contributions may now do so. Honorable Member for Island Harbor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I guess it's afternoon and past the lunchtime of my learned friend and colleague from Road South. So I hope that I can be brief in these remarks. However, it is imperative understanding that Anguilla is surrounded by water, and the importance thereof is that we have 200 miles of an exclusive economic zone, exclusive fishing zone, and these waters can be easily destroyed through dumping. And I remember, growing up in Island Harbor, which we consider to be the fishing capital of Anguilla, and would be the sailing capital also, but my colleague from Road North would say otherwise. And there are parts in this bill which talks about boats colliding with each other, and so there are penalties for that in this amendment also listed, and fines, which we'll take into consideration. But as I was going to say, I remember sitting in the audience is Brother Clive Smith, and he would patrol the eastern and northern shores of Anguilla because of the amount of garbage and pollution that there was to try to maintain our pristine island. And I'd like to say thank you, Brother Clive. Thank you. And this is something that we have to take into consideration, because if we are a five-star country that we want persons to visit, to become economic residents, to become digital nomads, we have to maintain this pristine nature of our island and be eco-friendly. And so this type of amendment here in the Merchant Shipping Act, which defines how captains and masters of ships are supposed to operate, which defines how the crew should be treated on ships. It talks about communication. It talks about laws and rules on the sea that we may have taken for granted growing up, knowing that we are our brothers and sisters keepers and we have to look out. And Anguilla is one which has a history of some of our seafarers who venture far afield to provide us with catch that is necessary to maintain our tourism industry, that they may get lost at sea. We used to rely upon our peers, other fishermen, and boat persons, and more recently, the good graces of our pilots and captains to go out in their airplanes to search. And that led us to the point where we felt it necessary to have search and rescue vessels, which are necessary. And so, with the good graces of the governor's office, and at this point in time, I would like to beg indulgence of the House to say that I'd like to commend His Excellency Tim Foy, Governor of Anguilla, for the yeoman service that he has done in the time that he has been here. And that helped us to get from the funding from the Conflict Stability and Security Program the Maritime Coast Guard Agency to help us to get a search and rescue vessel being built by Anguillians, for Anguillians. And so I'd like to commend them for that, commend them for the other service that he's provided and helped us during this pandemic to get funding to help with bolstering our healthcare system. The previous Anguilla program, which has helped to bolster and build back, restore our hospitals, our clinics, our schools. And as it comes time for him to leave these shores, I just would like to say in this honorable house, thank him for the job well done. But it was in the Joint Ministerial Council a few weeks ago, one of the interventions was on the International Maritime Organization and the III Code. And in that it shows that how Anguilla has benefited because funding was necessary to ensure that we could have a modern shipping registry. All part of what it has to be necessary, why these bills are coming into play and these amendments are necessary, Madam Speaker, to ensure that, as the member who presented the bill said, it's necessary to comply internationally, because in the spring of 2021, there will be an audit done. And Anguilla, being part of the United Kingdom, will be held accountable that the decisions that we make can cause the United Kingdom and the overseas territories to fail that audit if we don't do our part. And so it is necessary that we, as part of that global community, make sure that we enshrine in us the legislation necessary. But during that, I was able to make an intervention on behalf of Anguilla, ably assisted by the Permanent Secretary and the Ministry of Infrastructure, Utilities, and Tourism. And I must say that this Permanent Secretary currently has been of great assistance to the Minister, unlike some Permanent Secretaries in the past who made it their duty to obstruct the work of the Minister of Infrastructure in past administrations, but I digress. I too would like to say that during that time, decisions were made by the United Kingdom to cut the funding to overseas territories where the budget for overseas was cut from 0.7% of the national budget to 0.5%, which would show that there is a decreased commitment. Understandably, when the economy is crashing in the United Kingdom and the COVID pandemic has caused a severe economic scoring, sacrifices have to be made, such as also will have to be made here in Anguilla. But Baroness Sugg, who was the Minister for the Overseas Territories, she took a principled stand and resigned as the minister during the JMC because she felt that by cutting the budget for the overseas territory and for international development, that would decrease the commitment of the United Kingdom to helping out in these areas. And so now Lord Ahmad, who was the minister in the past, he has now assumed that position again, and so certainly we'll be looking to see how things go, because as we in Anguilla go into a new year, we certainly know that we will not benefit as much from tourism, which is limited, and this because of the pandemic. And so we're hoping that as vaccines come on board, and I know, Madam Speaker, that there are many concerns about vaccinations. And, you know, we do hope through public education programs that we can assure the people that as vaccinations come on board, that they'll be essential to decrease the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. I also want to say, Madam Speaker, that this merchant shipping amendment, it will help us. There are fines that will be imposed for pollution. There are fines that will be imposed for those who do not respect the laws of the sea. There'll be fines and even imprisonment for those who abuse the ability to be on the water and who do not respect laws and rules that exist. And so I would like to say stand in support of this bill and ask that we had the public consultation here last Tuesday. We'd like to, you know, thank the persons that helped to build this house back after it was devastated by Hurricane Irma. We'd thank the United Kingdom government and Governor Foy for getting us the funding to build it back. But this house served its purpose well. It continues to serve that purpose. And during that public consultation, which was open to all the public, the physical bodies there did not represent the interest that there was, because online, through social media and other avenues, we found that persons listened, made comments, they sent suggestions. And that is what it is. This administration, we are here for transparency and accountability and good governance. And when you heard the members say that now we have a good government, he says that because understanding that, you know, in Anguilla, you get elected and people expect you to just do miracles. They don't know what you meet when you come in. They don't know about what the financial position is, but they have expectations that you can move mountains. And certainly I know that this administration and my colleagues are competent, capable, and we also have the courage to make the hard decisions which are necessary, and to make the sacrifices that we have to, so that we can make sure that the well-being of the people of Anguilla is protected. And so I'd like to say that, you know, I will have more time to speak as we go further into the year, and I'll save some of those comments for that time. I thank you and appreciate it. I stand in support of this bill.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Island Harbor. Are there any other contributions? If there are no other contributions, I invite the mover to respond, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the support on both sides of the aisle, because, you know, as they say, silence is consent. So I appreciate you for support and giving your full support to this bill. And I also appreciate the Honorable Premier that hails from what we know as a fishing village, a seafaring village. And it is unfortunate that the satellite keeps putting blows in the UFO. The real deal keeps putting licks in the UFO. The tree keeps putting blows in the UFO. So even though District 1 is a seafaring village, and it has a lot of seafaring people, and the school sits right underwater, we, down on that side, we know how to navigate a ship or 2 or 3. So I want to thank the Honorable Premier for his full support on this bill, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I was very excited, and I'm very excited, Madam Speaker, at this second stanza in government, Madam Speaker, to be working with a permanent secretary in that of Karim Hodge in the Ministry of Infrastructure, who has my back, and he knows that I have his, and he has been putting in work along with the other members of the Ministry of Infrastructure. And the Premier made mention, Madam Speaker, that when we come in, we thought that we could move mountains. And Madam Speaker, we thought that then, but we now know that we can move mountains. And as you can see, Madam Speaker, we come to this House month after month since being sworn in, Madam Speaker, and we continue to move mountains in this House, doing what they thought unimaginable, Madam Speaker. And I know as we move forward, there will be a lot more bills we'll be bringing to this House that everyone have avoided, because the leader of this government, Madam Speaker, as he said, we are willing to make the tough decisions and do the heavy lifting, Madam Speaker. And when we talk about heavy lifting, you know, we know to lift heavy. We lift heavy weight. Right, member for Road North? We lift heavy weight. Road North lifts heavy weight. You know, we are not lightweights over here, Madam Speaker. We bench press heavy, we squat heavy, and we deadlift heavy, Madam Speaker. So we know to lift heavy weight. And this Merchant Shipping Act is heavy weight. As a matter of fact, you can tell by the thickness of this bill, Madam Speaker, that it's heavy weight. But Madam Speaker, while I say that, you know, some time ago, there was a ship that was tilted to the side, I believe in Trinidad, somewhere thereabout, and everyone was concerned about the possibility of oil spills, Madam Speaker. And we know what oil spills can do to our maritime industries. And while it was in our waters, people in Anguilla were concerned. And this bill also seeks to ensure that ships in our waters are seaworthy. It is important that any ships that come in our waters are seaworthy. And we want to ensure as well, Madam Speaker, as we start to move forward and looking beyond the vaccine, Madam Speaker. And I would hope that we do not subscribe to the conspiracy theorists out there related to vaccines, because all of us in here, Madam Speaker, are full of our vaccines already. And one other vaccine is going to help us to move this world forward, Madam Speaker. And hopefully we can have a real mature discussion on vaccines. And if anyone, I see people on social media, Madam Speaker, saying, oh, let the politicians take it first. Well, I don't know who is going to get it first out of me and the Premier, but I know we're going to be sprinting to the front of the line to get that injection, Madam Speaker. And I would hope that members of the opposition will also be lined up to take their shots, because if you don't take your shots, all right. Thanks for hearing that the Honorable Single Iowa candidate said that he'd beat us to the pack. So that's great. But Madam Speaker, also we are moving forward. You know, we talked earlier today, Madam Speaker, about the fact that Martin St. Martin have recorded over 2,000 cases of COVID. And we know we have very familial ties, historical familial ties with St. Martin and St. Martin. And prior to 1995, Madam Speaker, September 1995 to be exact, we had a late night ferry out of Marigot. And we could come over from St. Martin at 11 o'clock in the night, Madam Speaker. And we are moving, hopefully, to get to that reality again, where we can have a late night ferry put in place, Madam Speaker. As you can see, you know, we've been doing a tremendous amount of work, even at Sandegrong, Madam Speaker, with the port is in Sandegrong, Madam Speaker. We have moved the hours at that port facility from 8:30 in the day to noon, 1 to 4, to 8 a.m., to 6 p.m., and half day on Saturdays, Madam Speaker. That in itself affords public servants who have to work at 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 to have sufficient time to clear their items, and businesses to have sufficient time. So heavy lifting, Madam Speaker, by this administration, because just the other day I was looking at the Premier. He always reminds us and keeps us accountable and say, listen, whatever you promise on that election campaign, you have to deliver. So he keeps us on our toes, Madam Speaker. And he sent out the policy initiatives that we spoke about. And when I look through the policy initiatives, Madam Speaker, I kid you not, 100% of them have already gone to Executive Council, Madam Speaker, in 6 months, Madam Speaker. That says so much about the possibilities once you have a government that has the right leadership, that has the right motivation, that is caring and compassionate and puts Anguilla first, and you sit down to do the work. 100%. An idea, anybody can go back and look at what we said during the last election cycle, Madam Speaker, and you'll see time and time again you can tick off the boxes. So we know that the economy is what it is, right? But as it relates to policy initiatives, and I know that the honorable member for Valley South will be coming to this house very shortly with a big-time policy initiative that will have the honorable single-white candidate on the other side of the divide jumping for joy. You know, he'd be so high in the sky, Madam Speaker. So I'm looking forward to bringing that to the minister, bringing that to the House, Madam Speaker, because initiative after initiative, legislative piece of legislation after piece of legislation will be coming to this House. And I know the single-white candidate on this side of the divide, Younger Hodge. Well, who's Younger Hodge? Which is the Younger Hodge? I mean, the other Hodge that sits on the right side of the Premier. He looks so young and fresh, Madam Speaker. Because after all those years of service, sometimes getting knocked around the public service, Madam Speaker, you know, decided, you know what? There's so much that I need to do, Madam Speaker. Let me take it to the people. Since I get knocked around in here, let me take it to the people, Madam Speaker. And he took it to the people, Madam Speaker, and he was resoundingly elected, Madam Speaker. And he keeps coming to this House, and all of those holes that is in that Labor Relations Act, Madam Speaker, he can fill those holes, Madam Speaker, so that the abuse and misuse that have occurred over the years will be gone out the door, Madam Speaker. And I'm proud to be part of this team, this glorious team, this fantastic team. I dare say this hungry team at this point. But, Madam Speaker, I just want to say that this is a good bill. It's supported by everyone in the House. And I'm so happy to see everyone in the House supporting these bills that we continue to bring to this House and keeping the members of the opposition active, that they have to dress up nice and come to this House twice a month, Madam Speaker. Never before has that happened in the history of Anguilla, Madam Speaker. And I want to also thank you and the clerk of the House and his capable team that has been doing a tremendous amount of work, Madam Speaker, as it relates to the standing orders. The honorable single-white candidate for the other side of the divide. And I say that reservedly because I know he really would not always want to be on the other side of the divide, but he too, you know, attends those meetings. I can't say that for all of his colleagues, you know, but he attends, and you must give him a pass for that. But we will be bringing those to the House, Madam Speaker, so that we can have continuous discussions as we move Anguilla forward, Madam Speaker. We're going to change this country because, Madam Speaker, change really couldn't wait. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Road South. I hope you didn't eat the snacks of the other members. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled the Merchant Shipping Amendment Act 2020 be now read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
An act to amend the Merchant Shipping Act, revised statutes of Anguilla, Chapter M82.
Under Rule 54 of the Legislative Assembly Rules of Procedure, the bill now stands referred to a committee of the whole Assembly to be considered clause by clause. Assembly in committee.
Clauses 1 through 10.
I put the question that clauses 1 through 10 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The schedule.
Put the question that the schedule do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
The title and the enacting clause.
I put the question that the title and the enacting clause do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The Assembly will now resume its sitting. The mover may report.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to report that the bill entitled Merchant Shipping Amendment Act 2020 has passed through committee without amendments.
And is ready.
And is ready for its third reading. I'm sorry, Madam Speaker.
A bill for Merchant Shipping Amendment Act 2020, third reading.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I move that Rule 53 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly. Sorry, my bad, Madam Speaker. I move that the bill entitled the Merchant Shipping Amendment Act 2020 be read a third time, Madam Speaker, and pass.
Madam Speaker, I rise a second.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill entitled Merchant Shipping Amendment Act 2020 be now read a third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
An act to amend the Merchant Shipping Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter M82.
Bill read a third time and passed.
A bill for dogs, injury to poultry and small stock Amendment Act 2020, first reading. An act to amend the Dogs, Injury to Poultry and Small Stock Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter D40. A bill for Dogs Amendment Act 2020, first reading. An act to amend the Dogs Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter D36. A bill for Public Pounds Amendment Act 2020, first reading. An act to amend the Public Pounds Act, Revised Statutes of Anguilla, Chapter P 160. Adjournment.
Madam Speaker, if you would indulge me, it is known that at the point of the adjournment, some remarks may be made before the adjournment, unconnected to agenda business. Earlier on, I alluded to my being detained by other business connected to the House and the life of government, why I arrived to this honorable House late. Now, it is easier to be misunderstood than to be understood, and so out of the abundance of caution, I wish to follow through and follow along from where I was when I introduced, well, when I made introductory remarks on the bill. I did have the occasion to speak to the Clerk of Parliament, hence the request of your good self to adjust the agenda for me because I was being detained. And so I wish to place on the record so that there is no misunderstanding at all, that no discourtesy was intended to this honorable House or to anyone. I think all of us members of this honorable House in whatever capacity on either side would appreciate in the web of affairs what exactly is required of any one person in this particular role that I happen for this time being to perform. And so, Madam Speaker, my apologies in that regard. Perhaps the request should have been more variedly formulated so that the House would understand that my detention was not only for other business, but that I would be here at a certain time. I will adjust that in future, but no discourtesy was intended, and for the record, I do apologize.
I believe none taken, member, and I did ask leave of the Assembly for the shifting of the agenda, so thank you. Adjournment.
Madam Speaker, I beg that this honorable House be adjourned until Friday, December
18th.
December 18th at 2 p.m.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House stands adjourned until December 18th at 2 p.m. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. This honorable House now stands adjourned until Friday, 18th December at 2 p.m. Thank you.